Good morning, Philippines. Good morning, Mindanao. It's a Friday, September 11, 2020. This is Kyla on Lebosada. Our news, your business. For the headlines. Powers of international organizations. Organs of the United Nations. State regionalism and non-state regionalism. NATO, OPEC, NAM, and ASEAN to be discussed. For the first news, powers of international organizations. The power of classification to fix meanings and to diffuse norms are three broad types of international organization power that flow from the ability to international organization structure knowledge. Classification is an elementary feature of bureaucracies is that they classify and organize information and knowledge. This classification process is bound up with power. Categorization and classification are a ubiquitous feature of bureaucratization that has potentially important implications for those being classified. To classify is to engage an act of power. Security is defined as not just safety from military violence, but safety from environmental, economic, and political harm is an example of power to fix meanings. International organizations exercise power by virtue of their ability to fix meanings, which is related to classification. Naming or labeling the social context establishes the parameters, the very boundaries of acceptable action. The power to diffuse norms. Officials and international organizations often insist that part of their mission is to spread, inculcate, and enforce global values and norms. They are the missionaries of our time, armed with a notion of progress, an idea of how to create a better life, and some understanding of the conversion of many international organization elites have as their stated purpose a desire to shape state practices by establishing, articulating, and transmitting norms that define what constitutes acceptable and legitimate state behavior. Organs of the United Nations to be discussed by Angel Lebosada. For the organs of the United Nations. For General Assembly, decisions on important questions such as those on peace and security, admission of new members, and budgetary matters. The Security Council takes the lead in determining the existence of a threat to the peace or act of aggression. It calls upon the parties to dispute to settle it by peaceful means and recommends methods of adjustment or terms of settlement. In some cases, the Security Council can resort to imposing sanctions or even authorize the use of force to maintain or restore international peace and security. The Economic and Social Council is responsible for promoting higher standards of living, full employment, and economic and social progress, identifying solutions to international economic, social, and health problems, facilitating international, cultural, and educational cooperation, and encouraging universal respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. The International Court of Justice settles in accordance with international law, legal disputes submitted by states, and to give advisory opinions and legal questions referred to it by authorized UN organs and specialized agencies. The Secretariat gathers and prepares background information and various issues so that government delegates can study the facts and make recommendations to help carry out the decisions made with the different organs on the United Nations. State regionalism and non-state regionalism to be discussed and differentiated by Sophia Lebosada.
States are being controlled by their political elite and private, then make it looks like apart from its political society. This domestic political system affects fundamentally in the characteristic of international relation. Non-state or significant political influence but is not allied to any particular country or state. The key difference between state and non-state is the state are the ruling governments or a country, whereas non-state are the influential organizations or even individuals having the potential to influence the actions of state but not allied to state.
NATO, OPEC, NAM, and ASEAN to be discussed and differentiated by Jeanette Lebosada.
NATO or North Atlantic Treaty Organization was established for military defense. It was formed after World War II among several European nations and the United States to prevent the spread of communism throughout Europe. OPEC or Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries is an example of two-polar resources. It is to coordinate and unity petroleum policies among member countries in order to secure fair and stable prices for petroleum producers, an efficient, economic, and regular supply of petroleum to consuming nations, and a fair return on capital to those investing in the industry. The non-aligned movement was formed during the Cold War to protect independence. It is an organization of states that did not seek formality aligning themselves with either the United States or the Soviet Union but sought to remain independent or neutral. ASEAN or Association of Southeast Asian Nations was established to promote political and economic cooperation and regional stability. The organization, which aimed to promote peace and security in Southeast Asia and foster economic development and cooperation among member nations, was formed with the ongoing Vietnam War.
And that wraps up today's episode. This is Kyla on Lebosada. Good morning.